And overall, Lord, you would be glorified as we seek to understand your word and how it relates to the things to come. Thank you again so much for who you are and for what you do for us in your son's name. Amen. Okay, y'all, just give it a second. Okay, just give it a minute. Okay, let's continue here. We're actually going to finish. Well, we're going to finish the chapter this morning. So let's go ahead and jump in here forthwith. These clickers get on my nerves.
Make sure that you have the actual PowerPoint stuff.
I have to actually have a degree to use this. Okay, so here we go. We have not traveled very far on the timeline. We are still, as a matter of fact, we reversed course and went backwards. We have basically went this far with Darius the Mede concerning chapter 6, and then in chapter 7 we have now rewound the clock back to the first kingdom and the Babylonian Empire, and discussing some of the details of Daniel's visions concerning this. So again, we have not really gone very far within the timeline. Now, Daniel chapter 9, we're going to go way into the future, all right? We're gonna jump a couple of several decades, but this is how far we've gotten. As I mentioned before, we are at the tail end of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire, just respectively. So we are entering into Cyrus the Great and the Medo-Persian Empire, and basically the end of Nebuchadnezzar's and the Babylonian Empire. Belshazzar is the co-regent, the last co-regent within the Babylonian Empire, and there's been a lot of activity that has been happening between this time. Belshazzar is the vice-regent of Babylon. Nabonidus is the king of Babylon. And of course, in 539 BC, Nabonidus and Belshazzar are overtaken by Cyrus, essentially. Chapter 7 and 8 of Daniel have occurred between the first year of Belshazzar's reign, which is chapter 7, and chapter 8 is the third year of Belshazzar's reign. Daniel is now 65 at this particular time. As always, to remind us of something to remember, we have switched from the Aramaic to the Hebrew language. Remember, the Hebrew language is local. Aramaic is essentially the common tongue of this time. And so that's important to recognize and understand that from chapters 2 to 7, God, by way of Daniel, is communicating in the common language, right? The language shifts in chapter 8 to Hebrew, which concerns, again, the Hebrew people, the Israelite people, particularly in captivity and beyond that, and some of the information that is used there. The shift in the language, again, seems to focus on the Hebrew people and their destiny in association with Gentile history. In the next couple of weeks, matter of fact, Lord willing, next week, I've been working on this timeline for about a month now. I'm going to attempt to try to pictograph this from chapters 2 to 7. Okay, all this activity. It's pretty involved, but we'll walk through it. Okay, so hopefully this will become clear, and I think this has become clear as we walk through chapter 8 of this text. Okay, so we are in the middle of Gabriel, this divine being who has been sent to Daniel to explain to him the vision that he had seen and observed in the Ulai Canal, or in front of the Ulai Canal. The picture of the ram, the vision of the goat's horn, these four horns, these that come up out of the middle of this goat's face. he is continuing to explain to him all of these things and what they mean. And we see these particular details depicted here in the explanation of these particular creatures. That the characteristics of the ram, Gabriel underscores that this represents the Median and Persian king. Okay? Again, this is at the tail end of the Babylonian Empire. Then we see the characteristics of the goat's horn that Daniel saw, and that represents the first king that will arise from this particular empire. And we looked at that as Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was the first king to arise from that empire and conquer the Persian and Median Empire. Then we describe the characteristics of the goat's four horns. Alexander the Great's reign, even though it is massive, it doesn't last for very long, right? And that horn is broken, and in its place are four horns. And we talked about that those represent the generals of Alexander the Great, and how the kingdom is divided into four regions. And for all the attempts for them to try to maintain Alexander the Great's power.
The Student Senate Executive Officer elections are next Wednesday.
I don't know how that happened. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So the four kingdoms represent, again, they tried to keep the power of Alexander the Great, but they didn't have the political ideology. They didn't have the military tactical intelligence of Alexander the Great. And so they didn't expand the kingdom as much as he would have liked if Alexander the Great had passed away. Then we see the transition switch, that there's a latter period that is mentioned by Gabriel, and that out of the four kings that come later on, a king will arise from among them who is mighty and understands intrigue or deception. As we looked at the characteristics and qualities of this horn, the small horn that grew to an exceedingly great size, right? Okay, let's continue here, looking at verses 24 and 25 of chapter 8. Now, these next statements in verses 24 and 25, or statements 24 and 25, are an extension of the previous points in statements, either verses 24 and 23 and following. As a matter of fact, I want to read these, and then we'll continue on here. It says, recall that this king who arises is mighty, strong, and is skilled in intrigue. He's a master of deception, as it says in verses 24 and following. I'll start at verse 23 in chapter 8. In the latter period of their rule, when the transgressors have finished or completed their course, the king will arise, insolent and skilled in intrigue. His power will be mighty, but not by his own. He will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will. He will destroy mighty men and holy people. And through his shrewdness, he will cause deceit to succeed by his influence, and he will magnify himself in his heart. So these statements that we're going to look at are an extension of the statements that we looked at previously. Okay? We're still talking about the same person. So let's take a look here. In verse 24, as I just read, that his power will be mighty, but not by his own power. Interesting. And he will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will or his desire. He will destroy mighty men and the holy people. Let's talk about Gabriel's statement and look at some words here concerning his explanation to Daniel. First, the word power is koach. It occurs 126 times in the Hebrew scriptures, 13 times in the book of Daniel, and it underscores the strength of someone, their ability, or their influence, or their power. In terms of this context, this highlights or underscores one's physical ability and skill. Whoops, let me go back here. So it's not just the fact that he has influence, but he has the ability to gain massive amounts of influence with his so that means he has military tactical ability. He has insight into things that most would probably think he doesn't. I mean, he's very shrewd and skillful in this. Okay? It seems very superhuman, as a matter of fact. Let's take a look at this word mighty here. The word mighty is atzam. It occurs 20 times in the Hebrew scriptures and 3 times in Daniel. The word is in the kol stem, which is active, and this impacts the way that this word is translated. It can be translated in different ways depending on the stem of this particular word. Of course, because it's in the qual stem, this is talking about, again, one's might and his strength. Right? So his power, his influence, his ability will be strong. So much so that it seems unbreakable. And yet we find that this skill and this power, as the text says, is not his own. It's someone else's. He's operating off of someone else's power and influence. So the might and skill that he displays, he's not getting it himself. It has been given to him, which is interesting. We come to the Hebrew word destroy. Sakach is the Hebrew word for destroyed. 147 times it occurs in the Hebrew scriptures, 5 times in the book of Daniel. And it either translates as to destroy, to tear down, to remove, to corrupt something, or to lay waste to something. Okay. By the way, there's one, even though it occurs 5 times in the book of Daniel, there is one interesting place where this word occurs. Look at a chapter over to Daniel 9. Daniel chapter 9, this word occurs here as well. And it occurs in some places, somewhere very interesting. I'm going to start at verse 24, or statement 24 here in verse 9. It says, 70 weeks have been decreed for your people and your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end to sin, to make atonement for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. So you are to know and discern that in the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem to the time, to rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah, the Prince, there will be 7 weeks and 62. And more about that, we'll talk about that. It'll be built again with plaza and moat, even in times of distress. Verse 26 of this text. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. And the people of the Prince who is to come will sakach, destroy the city and the sanctuary. And its end will come with a flood. Even to the end there will be war, and desolations are determined. Interesting phrase where this pops up within this text. Because in chapter 9, Daniel gets another message concerning the future. And parallels very much the activity of the one in Daniel 8, which is interesting. So we see this word is to destroy, to lay waste to tear down, to cause chaos, right? And he will do it to an extraordinary, that's what the text says in verse 24, degree. This word, this Hebrew word is palah. 71 times it occurs in the Hebrew scriptures, 2 times in Daniel. This word translates, it can mean something of great wonder. You know, you just stare at it. It's, oh, what? Right? It is marvelous. It is amazing. It is, yo, what? Right? This underscores or emphasizes the shock and awe. His power is so massive that it'll be anything like anyone's ever seen. People will be shocked at what they see and what they observe. It's going to be extraordinary. The destruction and chaos that this individual, according to Gabriel, what Gabriel's telling Daniel, will be destruction unlike anything that anybody has ever seen. Again, this word is written in the Nephal stem. This is the effect of this individual's activity. This is what he causes. Due to the nature of the king's power and his influence and his activity that does not originate from him. Like I could see like this individual, you know, he's kind of, you know, he's not a weakling, but he doesn't really have a lot of influence. And someone or something comes to him and tells him, I will give you great power and great skill and great ability. And he takes it and he causes all of this chaos. He is able to produce destruction to an astonishing degree, a rapid degree. Just comes in, takes place, is no problem. Destroys fortresses that are erected and established as if nothing, as if he just came in and just nothing happens. He will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will. He will destroy mighty men and holy people. So here's a question. Who are these mighty men? And who are the holy people? Who are these individuals? Well, let's take a look here. Mighty men is the Hebrew word atzum. Occurs 31 times in the Hebrew scriptures, 2 times in the book of Daniel, as again, we talked about strong and mighty is what this word means. It is related to atzam, actually. Again, this Hebrew word frequently emphasizes a person's physical strength or their strength in numbers. Okay? This word is actually used a couple times. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 25, it is used, atzum. Talking about, again, the king of the south. We'll get there eventually. It says, he will stir up his strength and courage against the king of the south and a large army. So the king of the south will mobilize an extremely large and mighty army for war. Okay? But he will not stand. That is the king of the south, even though he's amassed a huge army with tons of weapons and tons of firepower and tons of manpower. The king of the south will lose. He will lose decisively. For schemes will be devised against him, which is why he loses. So it seems that based upon the fact that this particular individual will have power that's foreign to him, he will be able to take down people and armies that are way stronger than he is and powerful than he is because of his intrigue and his ability to do so. How about the term holy people? Kadosh is the Hebrew word. Again, this occurs 118 times in the Hebrew scriptures, occurs 3 times in the book of Daniel. This is described as one who is holy. It's even translated as saint, or one or describing something that is holy, an object or a person. This speaks to the character and nature of a being or an object that is set apart, or the position of a particular person or a nation. Okay? So this individual, this horn that grows to an extraordinary measure, he will take down mighty people, mighty armies, and these holy ones. As a matter of fact, we see this word in Leviticus 19:2. It's kind of interesting here. Kadosh, same word here. God talking to Moses. He says to this, speak to all the congregation of the sons of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord, your God, am holy. Again, referring to the nation of Israel and how they were seen in the sight of God, and based upon that, how they were to conduct themselves as a nation before him. Leviticus 20:26, same deal. It says, thus you are to be holy to me, set apart to me, separate to me. For I, the Lord, am set apart, holy. And I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine. A particular nation, a unique nation, meant to reflect the character of God based upon what he declared to them, that they were a holy people. Numbers 15 also underscores this as well, that all of the tassels, the phylacteries, the things that they were to wear, the talit, the cloak, all of these things were to be reminders of this particular fact. It said it shall be a tassel for you to look at and remember all the commandments of the Lord so as to do them and not follow after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you play the harlot, so that you may remember to do all the commandments and to be holy to your God. It would appear that these holy people, that this individual who shares this foreign power, it seems, will take down the nation of Israel. He will destroy mighty men and the holy people. As a result of his foreign power, he will cause chaos and destruction unlike anyone has ever seen, and will destroy both armies, mighty men, and Israel alike. Man. By the way, the holy people, by the way, just to let you know, that different article is there. So it's talking about a specific people. I believe this is Israel right here. And again, underscoring the fact that this is written in Hebrew, underscoring the fact that we bring up the beautiful land and the dwelling of the individuals within that land. They will be removed from that land. Many of them will lose their lives as a result of this individual's power. Verse 25, let's continue. And through his shrewdness, he will cause deceit to succeed by his influence, and he will magnify himself in his heart, and he will destroy many while they are at ease. Interesting. Let's take a look at a couple of phrases here. Shrewdness is shekel. This Hebrew phrase occurs 16 times in the Hebrew scriptures. It only occurs here in the book of Daniel, and this text, in this chapter that we're looking at. It comes from the Hebrew word, the root Hebrew word sakal, meaning to perceive, to understand, to be wise, to think, to have insight. Okay? So based upon this individual's insight, this individual's understanding, he will cause deceit to succeed. Again, this could be better translated as cunning, really crafty, right? Again, based on the actions of this king and again, his foreign influence. This word deceit, let's take a look at this word here. Again, mirah is the Hebrew word here. 39 times it occurs in the text, 2 times it occurs in the book of Daniel, and it comes from the root word ramah, meaning to deceive, to beguile somebody, to trick somebody. Again, this kind of coincides with the word intrigue, right? He's a master of deception. Again, due to his cunning and craftiness of this king's nature, it leads to his deceitful actions. Let's take a look at the influence here. Influence is kind of interesting. This is the word yod. It occurs all over the place in the Hebrew scriptures. And 13 times in Daniel. This word influence is interesting. It literally means hand, like one's hand. So the craftiness or the cunningness of his deception will occur by his own hand. All right. This is the result of the deceit and craftiness this king will exhibit. Again, this is, even though his power and his ability doesn't come from him, he certainly is committing all of these things. He's doing all of these things. These things are coming from his own activity, his own ability, his own actions. And then it says that he will succeed by his hand. He will magnify himself in his heart or in his understanding, in his mind, and he will destroy, lay waste many while they are at ease. Interesting. Well, what does this word mean? Shavlah is the Hebrew word. 8 times it occurs in the Hebrew scriptures. 3 times it occurs in the book of Daniel, and comes again from the Hebrew word shalah, which is translated prosper. It's more probably along the lines of peace and tranquility. So here's kind of what's going on here. It seems like there is a time of peace and ease where everybody seems to be able to breathe a little bit, right? There's not a care or a worry in the world. And then while they are at ease and everybody's hanging out, then destruction comes and just obliterates everybody based upon his own hand. It seems as if this king brings about a time of peace and then breaks that peace and brings about chaos and destruction when people are unawares. Again, which is why he is able to take advantage of people seemingly very quickly. Let's look at verse 25 here. Gabriel told Daniel that due to his king's cunning, he will also succeed. That's one of the results of them being at ease. They have their guard down. They trust this king and those who rule under him. And yet, at the time when they are secure and prosperous, he brings down the hammer. He destroys. We're also told by Gabriel, by way of Daniel, that he will also magnify himself. He will make himself great in his own mind because of all of this destruction and carnage, him amassing all of this real estate. He's going to think that he is the greatest thing ever. And if those who do not acknowledge him, do not recognize him as the best, the greatest thing ever, they will meet swift destruction. Them and their nation and their nations. Kings will be executed. People will have their authority taken away from them. People will be put in prison and executed right before his eyes. As I mentioned before, this king will cause destruction unlike this world has ever seen. Verse 26. Or is this 25? Yeah, we're still on 25 here. He will even oppose the prince of princes. This is interesting, but he will be broken without human agency. This is interesting. Let's look at this word oppose. Amad is the Hebrew word for this word here, oppose, that's translated. 521 times it is used in the Hebrew scriptures. 46 times it occurs in the book of Daniel. It essentially means to stand, to remain, endure. But actually, this word could be translated to stand against. He stands against this prince of princes. So again, putting this together, he's amassed all of this wealth, all of this real estate, all of this land. He's conquered all these people. He just mows them down, not just with his own power, but with a foreign power, a foreign influence over him. He's magnified himself in his own heart. He begins to stand against, speak against the prince of princes. It's fascinating. This word, shasharim, only occurs one time. And it only occurs here. Now, the word sharim or shar means prince, captain, okay? The captain of a team, or the captain of an army, or the captain of a squad. It could mean the chief, the primary individual, or a ruler. Again, this word or this phrase underscores a person who is a high ruler. Okay, the highest ruler of rulers or leader over people or places. Okay, so he opposes even the ruler of rulers. That's kind of the idea. He even opposes him. Again, shasharim, again, is the same word, but it's constructed a little differently depending on the Hebrew here, as you can see here at the top of the screen here. Shar-sharim, okay? Shar-sharim. The Hebrew word in red is singular. So it is the prince. The prince. The word in blue is plural. Any word that like seraphim, cherubim, any word that is an im, has an im at the end of it, is plural. So he is the prince of princes. He will even oppose him. He will think that his power, due to his attitude, due to his perspective, due to his nature, he will think that he can take him on. He can take him on and he can win. But Gabriel tells us something about Sharsharim. That Sharsharim, even though he opposes the Prince of Princes, he will be broken. The Sharsharim will break this individual. Shabar is the Hebrew word. 150 times it occurs in the Hebrew scriptures. 8 times it occurs in the Hebrew scriptures, and it means to destroy, to shatter, to break, like dropping a glass bottle or a plate, and it shatters, right? It just destroys. It just ends up becoming just destroyed in many pieces. This king, according to Gabriel, by usage of this word, this king in his rule will eventually be crushed or shattered or destroyed. That is the idea. Gabriel tells Daniel that this ruler again will even stand against the one who is called the high king of the rulers. That's man, the high king of the rulers. He will be so proud as to even oppose them. However, he will not be able to stand. He will be utterly destroyed by this high king without human agency. Again, the word is hand. No one will come to help this person. They will not come to this person's aid. They will not come to his defense. If they try, they will be destroyed as well by the high king of the rulers. Then we get to verse 26. Which writes this: the vision of the evenings and mornings, which has been told, is true. But keep this vision secret, for it pertains to many days in the future. This is interesting to me because at this point, from all the visions that we've looked at, this is the first time that this message has been given to Daniel, right? In Daniel chapter 2, it's told to Nebuchadnezzar, right? With the vision that he has. And I'm sure that that was expressed to many of the people that he was talking to after he got the explanation of that dream. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel keeps it to himself, okay? He's not told not to tell anyone. He just ponders it and keeps it for himself. Gabriel tells him, don't tell anybody this. The vision of the evenings and mornings, again, this goes back to verse 14 of this particular chapter. Okay? When we begin to start to see some of these things, it says, verse 13, then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to this particular holy one who was speaking, how long will the vision about the regular sacrifices apply, while the transgression causes horror or terror, destruction, really, so as to allow the holy place and the host to be trampled? And he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, all of this stuff that Gabriel explains applies to this time. Okay, the 2,300 evenings and mornings, he's causing all of this chaos for this whole time. So the vision of the evenings and mornings, which has been told concerning this, is true. It is emet. It is true, real. For it pertains to many days in the future. Gabriel finishes with telling Daniel the dream concerning the evenings and mornings. Again, hearkening back to Daniel 8:14. Gabriel underscores that this explanation is reality and instructed him to keep the vision closed. Satam is the Hebrew word. As these events corresponded to many days in the future. These days have not happened, but these days will happen. They will occur. Daniel, as well as us, has been given inside baseball information concerning the days of the future and this king who will arise and cause chaos. And if he is not stopped, if he is not destroyed by somebody, he's going to kill off everybody. And yet the one who comes to the aid of the world, no mere man can stop this man. The one person that could come and put an end to it is the one who is known as the High King of the rulers, the Prince of Princes. He's the only one that can stop this reign of destruction. This leads us to the last statement in this chapter, 8:27. Then I, Daniel, was exhausted and sick for days. Then I got up again and carried on the king's business, but I was astounded by the vision, and there was none to explain it. The impact and effect of this appearance, Daniel has a personal testimony. Then I, Daniel, he's talking and speaking. I, Daniel, me, was sick and exhausted for many days. This vision and what he saw left him just weak, physically weak, bedridden for many days. Then after his vision or his strength was restored, he carried on with the king's business of why he was even there in Susa in the first place. He literally had to take some time off. While continuing with the king's duties, he was amazed at the appearance, and there was no one to perceive it or understand it. Maybe perhaps, he said, look, I need you. Do you think you can kind of explain this to me? Let's keep this quiet maybe. What do you think? I don't know what you saw, right? There was no one to understand this particular vision that he had and that he saw. A very honest testimony of Daniel here. So to sum up here for this chapter, Daniel completed the explanation of the dream given to Daniel. And after this information that was given to him, this left him physically exhausted and shocked at the sight of what he observed pertaining to future events. And that concludes chapter 8, but we're not done, though. There's still a couple of things we have to do. First of all, we have to answer the pertinent questions. Those questions we've been asking at every chapter. We got to answer those. But before we get to that, we have to construct a timeline of all of the particular visions that we have observed pertaining to future events. And we will try to do that next week. Okay? Let's pray, and then we will close out here. There are so many details, Lord, that you have given to us concerning the things to come. These passages that we have the privilege of examining are just amazing. The fact that this ruler, no mere human, can defeat him. because his influence is foreign. Only you have the ability, the power, the influence to take him down, and you will take him down. Again, thank you so much for this account in Daniel and giving us a glimpse into the future and what this is about. May we continue to ponder it. May we be amazed by it, the fact that everyone in the world is trying to seek the future, and yet we have it right here, given to us within Scripture, as you have revealed it to Daniel, and Daniel has passed it to us. Thank you so much for it in your son's name. Amen.